Welcome back to another episode of Lady Justice Talks, where curiosity meets law. Today I have a very special guest. Today I have Annie. Annie is actually going into law school soon, so I think that's a perfect person to talk with today. Annie, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
I'm very excited for today's episode, actually. So, before we begin, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your involvement with law?
Yes, so I am a York alumni. I studied criminology. I actually just recently graduated in May, and I am going to law school this upcoming September. I'm going to the University of Birmingham. And in my involvement in law, I've worked previously as a court reporter, so I have some previous legal experience. But for so far, I'm just setting foot into the legal realm right now.
Oh, that's amazing. You
Thank
said,
you.
wait, where is my geography is
Yeah.
really bad. Where is the University of?
Oh, it's in the United Kingdom, so it's in England.
Oh, that's amazing. What made
Yeah.
you decide to just go all the way?
It's a great question. There's a really good program that they have there. It's the graduate program, so you can get your law degree done in 2 years. And you also don't have to do the LSAT. And it is, I wouldn't say fairly easy, but it was easier to get into an abroad school than staying within Canada. I also just don't know if I want to stay in Canada and work in Canada, but I just think I'm at a young age, so it's a fun way to kind of go into the real world.
No, that's amazing, and I think that's a great resource in itself. I know
Yeah.
that's like literally the first question, and you're already providing resources, because I think it's wonderful to try to broaden your perspectives. It's not only like LSAT, Canada, step
Yeah.
one, step two, step three. Like there's other things that you could also do, and I know we're probably gonna get back to this, but I know you've been really vocal about the Girls Belong Here program.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if this had anything to do with the different perspectives that you got.
Yeah, that's actually a perfect question. So let me just explain what the Girls Belong Here program is. So it's run by Plan International Canada, and it's basically where they grab a group of young women, and you do a seat share with the CEO, and they kind of match make you with the CEO with whatever your passion is, whatever you're studying, and so they try to match you up. So they've had innovation hubs with IKEA, and I had mine with Habitat for Humanity Canada, and my CEO was an Osgood alumni. So they kind of match us together based off the fact that we both wanted to do law and liked law and practiced in law. So in that seat share is where I got to learn. I basically what a seat share is I was the CEO for a week.
Whoa.
So I got to which is crazy, yeah.
Guys, I'm sitting with the CEO. Oh my god.
I got to join in all of her meetings. I got to meet with their HR. I got to drop in their city hall talks. So it was actually really a crazy experience, and I got to see how the company works from top down completely. So, and I know that other students, if they're in STEM, so this isn't just about humanities majors. There was a lot of girls in STEM, so they got to do innovation hubs with Pfizer Canada.
Yes.
So that was really crazy too. So it's a really great program that they run. I believe now it's semi annually, I think. So they run it sometime in September and then sometime in Mayish. I'm not entirely. I have to double check.
That's
but
okay.
Yeah, so they do. They basically have to just apply, do a little interview, and then they will match you up based off of that.
That's wonderful. I'm glad you mentioned interview because I feel like that's another thing that people probably expect law to be all about. Like, oh, it's very competitive,
Yeah.
stuff like that. So, is there something that could make me stand out that you would recommend for a student, whether that was law or you said STEM or something all competitive stuff, to have before going into the interview?
For that program, they run so many different types of programs. So it's not just the Girls Belong Here. They have different innovation hubs. They have
Wonderful.
different events where they have guest speakers come in. And this is entirely free. So you can drop in, you can sign up, and they have like I mentioned, different guest speakers. So I think putting yourself into these environments, meeting the I guess like team,
Networking,
yeah,
really.
and you
Yeah.
network with other individuals there because when I was a 2020 to 2021 alumni for the Girls Belong Here program, I went back for their youth summit. So I applied again for another event that they were hosting, which was the youth summit, where they got 30 young individuals, whether they run nonprofits, whether they have their own companies, and I got to sit and like network with them for about, I think it was like 4 days. It was like an over the weekend event, and at that we got to learn more about how we get youth involved into these bigger companies and how to get the youth message out. So Plan International Canada has so many events rolling, so I would really recommend just following them on like Instagram, LinkedIn, and seeing the events they post and keeping yourself in
No,
touch
that's
with them. Yeah.
wonderful. I'm wondering, out of curiosity, is there like any criteria to be a part of this program? For example, I know you said like youth, women. Is that like that's totally fine if that's the case, but like, is it particularly for this demographic, or can men and people who are older also apply?
So specifically for the Girls Belong Here program, and it's open to young women and non-binary
Understandable.
people. But for the other programs, that will be open to everyone. So
Amazing.
yeah,
Okay.
so but it's primarily directed just for youth. So that would, I believe, the ages are around like 14, 15 to around, I think, around 24 years old. So they have a very wide range, but it's primarily directed for youth because youth is the, I feel like they are the people that need the
Some
help,
guidance.
and
Some,
they
yeah.
need the role models, and they need like the seat share. They need to speak to people, and that's where they get their good ideas out because youth is the future, so they have so many ideas, but we have to give them a place at the table. So they have so many amazing programs that it's not just directed towards specific individuals, but they have so many different programs.
That's amazing. And I'm just wondering, just so we're like pretty clear with the audience and honest, did you have maybe any, it's okay if not, but did you have any challenges while within this program that maybe people should maybe expect?
Yeah, no, that's a great
You did?
question. I think the only, I guess, challenge I'd say was I was the only humanities major, I guess, in that entire environment. And I did mention this, and I think since I'm a 2021 alumni, I feel like now they've made progression into branching into different
That's
environments.
wonderful.
But it's mostly like when my year it was mostly STEM majors. So I'm not a science or medicine kind of girl. So I was the only humanities person there with my criminology background. So that's
Right.
all I was able to. It was very difficult for me to talk to some of the other girls there because I didn't relate to them too much on like studying from the MCAT or different medical
No,
science
I
terms.
I totally understand
Yeah.
that personally because I'm a psych major, and I was just telling you like before we went live that like I'm not really interested in law in terms of like becoming a lawyer, and to be honest, I didn't feel left out by Willa because Willa's just an awesome organization like that. But it could feel a little bit weird to like not have the same interests as the people around you. But sometimes it pushes you. Like at some point, I was like, oh, maybe I should think about taking the LSAT because you know, it just pushes you to do better in general. But then you come back and you realize, oh, I just want to do good in this. So I think that you're doing great in whatever you're choosing to do.
Thank you.
So, do you plan to have your future legal career intersecting with your interest in gender equality and initiatives similar to the Girls Belong Here, or
Yeah.
would it be just something on the side?
I would not necessarily push it all the way to the side. I feel like it was something I would do 50-50. So the reason why I really wanted to go into law, and I did write this on my personal statement, is like, obviously personal, trials that I've gone through, but primarily it's been centered around human rights. And for me, it's human rights and policing. I feel like those are my two main categories that I like to talk about. And, I'll share the story, but like my father was held at gunpoint in I think it was 2009. So that story in itself, and it was for a traffic stop. So that story in itself has kind of what urged me into going into law, and I like to focus primarily on policing. As I said in human
I'm so
rights.
sorry
So
you had
yeah,
to go through that.
no worries, and that's why I took courses specifically at York about with my criminology
Knowledge.
courses with policing and human rights because I wanted to engage myself more into the material for that academia base. And yeah, that's something I was passionate about. But nonetheless, like I love Plan International Canada for everything it stands for. They run such amazing events, and that's where you can like learn so much and also network. I've networked with so many people. Although I come from a humanities background, I was able to network with so many individuals that have nonprofits, that have these different companies. So yeah, all together, I wouldn't put it all the way to the side.
Understandable. And I know you mentioned personal statement, networking, and I feel like all of these are like stuff that people always mention whenever they're talking about like applying for stuff like post grad. So I remember even on because I follow you on Instagram, which is gonna be like in the beginning. Follow, connect with Annie. Um, I know we were even like some people were asking you questions about like your tips and advice really about what to do. Like for example, what do I even write in a statement?
Yeah.
So maybe you can tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I, just found it is just as difficult. Like it's not the easiest thing to sit and write about yourself. Is the weirdest thing you're gonna ever
Right.
have to do. Whether it's even
I'm
for
too
law
humble,
school,
guys.
it's just way too weird, and you have to sit there for like days writing about yourself. So I structured it and I wrote it with my professor. He was able to assist me on how
That's
I
nice.
should structure it. Yeah. So I really recommend reach out to somebody that you know who's applied to postgrad that has gone through these steps. They will assist you with breaking it down. But I really focus primarily on I want to go into law. This is what I want to do, and then why I want to do law because law schools are going to give you a prompt. It's going to be like why law, why us, tell us about yourself basically, and then that's where that's where you can go ahead and build that down. And so I picked one like niche story which I mentioned, and then I brought it up with courses that I've studied in my academia. And then I followed along with my, Girls Belong Here program, my efforts into, creating this community. And then I finished it off on like basically why this school. And then what I did is I would go on the school website, I would see what the school offers. So the different types of like, events they host or community events or whatever it might be, I go ahead and I match it to my description. So for example, Osgood has like a community park program, and it matched directly to my story. So I was able to put that together and make that one specifically for Osgood. So it's like you gotta kind of do a little bit of work. I will say, I think you should like take around 2 months to probably
Wow.
I don't know, like to make it.
Because
Really
for me,
good.
I personally always thought about it as like a little essay. Like I'm just like, oh.
Some people think it's worse than the LSAT because you
Yeah.
have to literally sit there and write about yourself, and it's the most awkward thing. And you have to go through
Yeah.
your history too, like what have I done in the years, what what kind of jobs have I worked. And I also mentioned like my work, but you want to make yourself look like a human because you're not just like a robot. They want
Yeah.
that type of humanity in someone. So yeah, I would say dedicate 2 months to it. Have a peer that you can speak to. Obviously, grammar and check
Right.
it. But yeah, you don't want to leave that for last minute. Oh, of course, you don't want to leave that. For
And
last
even I know if you're from York U, you have 2 years. I'm pretty sure with the writing center. After you graduate, you can still like go. They can still check your stuff. So that would be a really helpful thing. Cause yeah, I always thought about the statement as this little like, you know, like that's the only thing I can like connect it with. But that meme of the ant that's just like holding a bag, and I'm just like imagining that like I'm just like, oh, like I went through this, I went through that. But I really like how you're not only connecting it to like, oh yes, this niche story happened to me, that sucked, but also look what I did.
Yeah, and look what I'm gonna do.
Yeah. So I think that's a beautiful thing because you don't only want to be like, oh, I'm like I went through miserable things.
Yes.
Like I understand that's amazing that you could go through all of this and still be like this amazing person, but tell me how you're an amazing person too. And yes, I really liked how you mentioned that you go and like research the institution that you're going to apply to. Because I've done this with like all of my interviews. Because really the same is kind of like as if you're imagining an interview question. So I'm always like, I go online and then I see like if it's an important, like worth it interview really. I go online and I see their goals and the mission. Because usually that's like something they have on the website. And then I connect everything to the goals and the mission. So like, oh, I did this and that. Guess what this, like the purpose of this. And then I say like the goal and mission.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm really glad you talked about this. So do you have any other tips for studying, for example, that I remember you had this whole schedule
Yes.
posted on
Yes.
online. I was like,
Yes.
oh, this girl knows what's up.
Oh
So,
yeah. I would recommend like one thing I'd recommend for studying, and I wish I didn't do anything else. Like I bought all the books. It was I be honest with you, the only program I'll recommend to this day is Harvard Ready.
mm-hmm.
And you can ask anybody at York or anyone that's in Osgood or U of T, half them have studied with Harvard Ready. I think that it's such a good such good tutoring, such good program. I went up 7 points with him. Like crazy, really,
Are
really
we
great.
talking about studying for LSAT?
Studying for the LSAT,
Okay.
yes, yeah.
Just to be sure.
Yeah, just to recommend Harvard Ready. To do prep tests, I would recommend LSAT Lab because they have a free subscription.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't buy any of the books. I wouldn't bother with anything else. I think that in itself will get you wherever you want to go.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, that's
I
good.
truly.
Did they pay you for this?
No, I will stand behind it. I will stand behind it. But I do have an affiliate link with LSAT Lab.
Oh, okay. I see what's happening there. I see what's
No,
happening.
but I truly recommend Harvard Ready. I think it's the best program I've ever fell into, and I got recommended by another student. So yeah, Harvard Ready is where it's at.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not checking it out, but I'm sure all the law people will be. Do you think there's any other steps that people should be taking towards law school academically or also in terms of networking?
Yeah.
My question here is really like around like this one thing. This is a club. There's so many clubs. Do you think um, taking initiative in clubs, maybe becoming even like having a club yourself or being a part of the club, etc., is really worth it? For example, when you're writing about this statement, like, oh, I was a part of this club, stuff like that. Because I feel there's like this conflict of interest when it comes to, oh, I need to get a job, I need to get an internship, I need to be part of a club. Like, it's a lot. Obviously, if you're able to do it, good for you. But is it really like worth it, or is it a priority?
So I'm gonna give you I don't know. I'd give you my tough answer.
Right.
Because I would say it is a priority. I maintain jobs and I maintain running my clubs at the same time, and I maintain my schoolwork. So I was able to do all three, and I know that I recognize that some students cannot do all three, and like that's totally okay. Don't how do I explain this? Like don't smother yourself in all categories. Like if you can only do like clubs really well, stay in one club, work that club up, stay there, you know what I mean, and do great there. But don't like put bits and pieces of yourself everywhere where you can't give 100% in each category. So don't overwork yourself because then it's gonna be kind of pointless. So I was part of the Criminology Society at York, and I was there in my second year all the way into my fourth year, and I finished as the co-president. So I loved being in the Criminology Society at York. I loved the faculty members. I loved the students. I loved everything about it. And honestly, my favorite part was the faculty. We worked so closely with the faculty.
Right.
I went to the Ontario University Fair. I was there to speak to prospect, criminology students for York, and I've received so many opportunities because of that club and that program.
Right.
And so I really think clubs are, and they're also fun. Like, don't
That's
get me wrong.
that's
like,
the thing.
fun.
I wanted to add that. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like personally, before I joined clubs, I also like started like joining stuff like I guess second year as well. I don't know. First year always just like kind of like you're
There's so
just
much
trying
going
to
on.
swim. You're trying to survive. But yeah, I feel like you just really when you're prioritizing clubs, it's not only from an academic or like oh I'm networking standpoint, but also it's from like that self care because most of like a lot of the friendships I had somehow just emerged from Willa, like just
Yeah.
out of nowhere. Although like we literally just started,
Yeah.
but then like yeah, I just I was like yeah. So I was surprised. Like personally, I know you guys. If you're not in a club, I know how it feels to like see like the advertisements about clubs being like oh you can make friends here. And I used to make fun of these. Like I was like, oh, they're lying. I'm like, oh, no way, they're just saying that.
Yeah.
But they actually were.
Yeah.
And I also like how you're saying that like you don't need to give your all sometimes in everything. Because I remember there was this program at York. It's called Discover You. So like Discover Why You. And it's really good. And one of the things that you were talking about was that, especially for perfectionists like myself and probably like everyone in Willa, because that's just like you're a law major, so like it kind of you don't have to always give 100.
Yeah.
Sometimes 70 enough.
Yeah.
75 is enough. So, when you think about that, that would be much better than like, oh, let me just drop the club because I cannot even give a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of where you're coming from as
Yeah,
well.
and as for like internships, because I want to make sure I get each category. As for internships or like working placements, I would say that the best type of job that you can get while you're at university is like jobs on campus. Because you're already on campus, you can go ahead and work on campus. So there's
Right.
if you like honestly and truly, nobody really knows about this, but you can go on Indeed and you can go on LinkedIn and you can search up student ambassadors, and you can find different. For example, like Red Bull, you can find different like companies that want student ambassadors on campus and will pay you when you're on campus to basically talk about set company or set brand or whatever the requirements are. So there's so many of these positions open, but nobody really applies for them. I don't know why, but yeah, this is something that I recommend to any students.
Yeah.
I worked on campus in my 4th year. I worked at a company called Wise Prep. I was a marketing representative, and I basically would, talk to students about the program and like the program and like the different types of things that they run for a set company. So there's so many.
That's
different
why you're really
jobs.
good at talking about programs. Like the
I'm like,
girls belong here.
I just have so many programs going
Yeah.
on. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's wonderful.
Yeah, and then as for like jobs in the summer, apply for 2025 jobs right now. So you want to apply for the summer positions a year in advance. Yeah, like at least like if you want to work with these bigger companies, at least a year in advance, and because then you can you're the first. It was like the bird gets. What was it? The early bird
No,
gets the
don't
worm.
ask me.
Yeah, the early bird
I'm
gets
really
the
bad at
worm.
these.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have to be quick with it, and then also networking is a really big thing too. But I'd say like if you don't have a LinkedIn by now, you
Get
should
on
kinda
that.
make a
It's fine.
LinkedIn. Yeah.
No, kids, I understand how overwhelming it could be.
I
Like
know.
it took me like you're talking about your statement taking 2 months. I
Yeah.
took those 2 months setting up my LinkedIn. It's just like adding everything is just a lot.
It's a lot.
But once it's done, to be honest, it's just you keep adding a post or whatever after. It becomes like it's just like the start that
Yeah.
takes a moment. I actually wanted to ask you like two more things because like you're just like sparking all of the questions in my head right now. First thing, I know you said like something about like for example the jobs and did you have an internship as well or was it only like mainly a job? I just wanted to ask you that.
So, for internship, like, because our program doesn't really have like internships, but I would just maintain jobs if that makes
Okay.
sense. Yeah.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
My question was, what if my job opportunities or whatever it is are not directly related to law? What would you like recommend? Do you recommend just like oh leave the job, find something else, or like would you think about? I guess the statement is the main thing. Would be like
Yeah.
how you connect it, like the transferable skills,
Yeah,
basically. That's the main thing.
Exactly what I was gonna go about because it truly doesn't matter where you work. Like you don't need to work as a law student or like a legal assistant. Like no, if you can demonstrate that you were running this club, you were maintaining your working hours, and you received these amazing grades, you can demonstrate the fact that you're a good student overall. So it doesn't matter, what club it was or what the placement was. It just demonstrates that you're able to
Tackle multiple things
and
at once.
have that type of calendar. So no, I wouldn't necessarily say having legal experience makes you better. I think that's a complete like faux.
Okay,
I don't-
I'm glad you
I
think
think
so.
it's completely fake because I worked at like a mall in retail. I worked as a marketing rep on campus. I did have one placement where one place I worked where it was considered legal, but I only did that for a short period of time to get my foot into the door and kind of see what type of law I like, what kind of litigation I like, figure it out from there. And that was a small little thing I did. And then in my 3rd and 4th year, I worked at an insurance company.
Right.
Yeah. So again, this has nothing to do with law.
Yeah,
so
that's
you can go
that's
anywhere.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad because I feel like you're challenging all the like the perspectives. Because for example, the thing with the clubs, usually, I'm not saying that perspective is wrong, but like I like how you give the perspective that like yeah, it's good to have clubs because all of the reasons mentioned, and also the idea that like oh you just have to find something related to law particularly
Yeah.
because I feel like that's like a big one that not only in law to be honest usually in
Everything.
all degrees like oh you need to find something that directly relates to your degree which could be like pretty challenging. For example, in psychology, I can't just go counsel people right now. Like I do it for free, but but I can't just go ahead and just counsel people. So it's just easier to like do something else, like hosting here. Like oh, I'm listening, I'm asking questions. That's counseling ish, but yeah, you know what I mean. It's just like the skills. the other question that I had, do you have any advice about managing finances? Because I feel like you mentioned like the Harvard thing,
Harvard ready, yeah.
Harvard ready.
Yeah.
I assume that's paid.
Yes.
Um, on the other hand, you said, "Oh, don't buy all of these books." So like, I feel like you
Yes.
have like this like smart way of thinking about buying and not buying. So maybe you have
Yes.
some tips for that.
So specifically for financing, because I know like, money is a lot. It's
I
tight.
know.
We're in a different economy now, so it sucks.
In this economy.
In this economy, yeah. But like, I'd say that, like honestly, you just have to look at what people are saying. Because if I'm telling you like don't get the book, then like maybe you should like little bit listen. But yeah, but if you like the books and you're interested more in like the books, like that's totally fine too. But just know like also keep in mind like law and go even if you're going to post grad, it's an investment. Right, so I know it looks like a lot right now. It's super overwhelming. Like, trust me, paying for law school right now, it's overwhelming. But it's at the end of the day, like my friends always say, like, oh, you're an investment, so it's fine. Like, don't worry about it. So at the end, you're gonna end up making money and making money back, and don't worry about it right now. So it's hard not to worry about it right now because when you're looking at the numbers, you're like, wow, that's like 30 grand, okay. But in the long run, it will be fine. There's also different types of programs. Like I know Osgood has an LSAT program that if you are I think if you fit the requirements, and there's like a specific admission requirements, if you're like a low income, if you live like you are low income and you're a low income family household, you are able. There's different requirements, obviously, but you could be able to go and apply for their program. So there's different types of programs. I think you just have to look for them. Scholarships is also a really big thing too. People don't really or grants. People don't really look for those. A lot of law firms actually have specific scholarships, and yeah, you just have to put yourself out there. Like I truly think if you do like 10 minutes of research, you'll find a lot. Yeah.
No, that's good. And yeah, I need to do that research for like if I'm staying in Canada, because now you're making me think like, oh, maybe outside it looks cool.
Yeah.
But if I'm saying, because I'm wondering like, for example, a resource like OSAP,
Yeah.
which I think everyone is aware of. If you're not, please check it out. OSAP would be a wonderful thing. I'm not sure if it works only for undergrad.
So if the school is registered under OSAP,
Even if it was
OSAP has a list of schools that they recognize. If the school is on that list, so it depends on which school it is.
Right.
Like if it's, I don't want to say like a random school, but if it's a school that's recognized by them, they will accept it. You will just have to give them like documents to prove that you're going to that school. And then the school has to confirm your tuition and the cost of like textbooks and whatnot. Because when you go and you sign up, you do all that work. Yeah.
Even if it was a graduate program.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I don't know if it's provincially. I think it's federally. I don't know if you get both. I don't know if you get one or the other. I just applied, so we'll keep you updated.
We'll see.
Yeah,
keep us updated.
I did try to apply and see if I can, squeeze out some funds from there because I'm in Ontario. I'm Canadian. I might as well try.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, so we'll see how it goes. But if it is a registered school and it's recognized by them, you should be good.
That's amazing. That's breaking news to me because I'll go look it up right now. Like, because I feel like it's something that I personally think is an easy resource that you can just apply to because it's really user friendly.
Yeah.
Doesn't need a statement. Like I know, like it could be also overwhelming when you're applying for scholarships and there is like statements and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But OSAP it really just looks at like I don't know the line 1500 in your tax. Like it just
Yeah,
it doesn't
like
really
money.
yeah. So that's pretty like nice.
Yeah.
And speaking of finances, I guess it's time to thank our sponsor for for the amazing sponsorship. So this episode was brought to you by the sponsorship of Sam McDuddy, Real Estate Brokerage. Sam is the real estate leader in the GTA and one of the top realtors in the country. He spent many years with Remax, where he achieved the first team in Mississauga during his entire tenure. Was top 5 Remax team in Canada for a decade and was awarded the 5th Remax team worldwide. So thank you, Sam, for the amazing sponsorship. And Annie, thank you so much for being my guest today. Is there anything else that you would like to, leave the let the audience have?
I think it would be to, if you're really passionate about about law in itself, you should really take the investment. I know it seems overwhelming at first, but it's really worth it. And also, if you're gonna start this entire process, make sure that you're really committed to it. You don't want to do it like halfway and then realize it's not for you. You really want to put yourself in there. So I'd say speak to people, join clubs, join programs, network with other lawyers, and see if it's something for you, because you don't want to put yourself out there and then you not end up liking, which is fine if you don't end up liking it, but you don't want to invest all that time and money when you could be investing in something you're genuinely actually passionate about.
Exactly.
So yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you. It was great having you.